Hello YouTube and welcome to the channel. Now in today's video we're going to be looking at this. It's the Flyhal FC650. It's basically a 1/14th scale brushless buggy. Now if you're looking at this and thinking, oh, I recognise that, you might be the owner of an XLF F18, which this is a direct copy of. Well, it's not even a direct copy, it's actually made by XLF themselves. So if you go on the back, where are we? Xinlehong Toys Factory, which is in effect XLF. Now, as you may or may not know, Flyhal don't actually manufacture any of their own RCs. They literally cherry pick from other people's ranges. I mean, this is a prime example. This is obviously cherry picked from XLF's lineup, and they have a Flyhal X04, which is basically an XLF X04, X03. But with one major difference, and the difference is the Flyhal version, for some obscure reason, tends to be much cheaper than the original, and it can be up to half as much as the actual original RC that it's based on, which is not even based on, it is actually manufactured by the other manufacturer. But I'm not sure. Flyhal, it's very difficult to get any information on them. I'm not sure if Flyhal is a brand that's created to be sold in the UK and Europe, or what, but like I say, the major difference is these tend to be a lot cheaper than the originals. And the Flyhal FC650 is no exception to that rule. I mean, if you went and purchased the XLF F18, that would cost you anywhere between sort of 110, 120 quid-ish. But the Flyhal version could be had for about 80 quid. So, I mean, this used to be on Banggood for, what was it like? I think it was 65 or 68 quid. And it was absolute steal. I mean, they sold out virtually instantaneously, and I'm not surprised whatsoever, because it's exactly the same as its more expensive counterpart. So I'm a big fan of Flyhal. Anyway, enough of the waffle. Let's crack the box open, see what we get inside, and we'll start ripping this thing to pieces, see what we get for our 80 quid. Right then, in the box we get a spare battery. Now this is a 1600 milliamp hour LiPo unit. Very reminiscent of the one you get in WL Toys 144001, but we'll get to that in a minute. We get a battery charger, we get some spare R clips, we get a nice metal wheel wrench stroke spanner. We get our instructions. Now with Flyhal you only get a set of instructions, you don't get a parts manual, because you can't actually buy parts for Flyhal. But don't worry, because they're based on other people's RCs, you just find out what model they're copied, well, not even copied off, what model they are in the other person's lineup, and just buy spares for that. So if we needed any spares for this, we just go and purchase XLF F18 ones and they'd fit. So there's our instruction manual. Now then, with this we get a larger set of tyres. Now if you're at all familiar with XLF X04, X03s, you'll instantly recognise these, but we get a great big set of tyres, 4 of. And we've also got a transmitter, and it looks like we can reverse steering and throttle controls. We've got on-off switch. It looks like there's a throttle dual rate, a steering dual rate, and possibly a steering trim as well. And of course we've got the buggy itself. Now then, this does look like the ugly sister of a WL Toys 144001. It's not as pleasant to look at. It looks as though it's fallen out the ugly tree and hit a couple of branches on the way down, to be honest. But if you're at all familiar, again, with the 144001, this thing looks awfully familiar. Apart from the fact we get all these trick aluminium parts on it as standard. And this is what actually makes this an absolute bargain, but we'll get into it. When we tear it down, we'll get into it later on. Now under the bodywork we've got our spare battery, we've got a brushless motor, I think it's 3000 kV, a 2848 I think. We've got combined ESC and receiver here, I think it's about 45 amp, and we've got a little 3-wire micro steering servo down here. Now the other reason I want to do a teardown on this is what I want to see is if there's any parts commonality between this and the very, very similar WL Toys 144001. So what we're going to do, usual fare, going to start stripping it down. Now we've got the wheels off, we've got some nice metal wheel hexes. Now the tyres are very similar to WL Toys, but on the Flyhal we do get the same width of tyre on front and back. On WL Toys 44001, for example, we get fatter tyres on the back than you do in the front. They do feel quite soft and compliant, the rubber. I have heard actually that these don't last a long time, but given the fact that they do feel quite soft, I'm not entirely surprised. And now that we've got the wheels off, we can have a better look at the Trix suspension here. We've got metal lower wishbones, steering cups, etc. And I tell you what, this thing weighs a ton compared to the WL Toys. How good these are, these alloy components though, how good they are in a crash, I don't know. They are finished in red, which looks mint. It is a bit patchy in some places, but I must admit, it does actually look the part. Now we'll have a look at the suspension units, but I've got a feeling they're different too. It looks as though they're all one size, and they do feel very firm. Now the shocks on the Flyhal are the decent quality budget ones. They're very, very similar to the WL Toys ones, which are very good. Apart from the fact that these are the same size, same length front and rear, they're also very, very stiff. They must have some really thick shock oil in them. But even on this budget Flyhal, we get a decent set of shocks. I'm just in the processes of stripping the front end down on this, and to be honest, so far I haven't seen much in the way of parts commonality between this and the WL Toys, even though outwardly they do look very similar. We've got some decent metal drive shafts on this at the front, but again these are different from the WL Toys. They do seem a slightly thicker gauge, and possibly they do take a slightly larger nut. We've got some metal parts obviously on the wishbones. Now these aren't aluminium or alloy, they're like a metal but just painted red. They do feel quite heavy actually. I'm not sure what metal. I think they're only going to be cheap metal, aren't they? Although the steering hubs look very, very similar to WL Toys versions, they run on much larger bearings, so you wouldn't be able to swap these over at all. One thing I have noticed that's the same though is that they use the same glue to glue everything together, so you can't get anything apart. But so far, I mean, there's a lot of metal on this. There's a lot of trick parts on this Flyhal for the money, so I'm quite impressed. I mean, obviously the shock towers are all metal. Anyway. Everything seems to be ball raced. I shall carry on and keep dismantling. Now it's a very similar story on the rear as it was the front. We use the same metal wishbones. These are identical front and rear. We've got some metal rear hubs. Again, they're not aluminium. They're just like probably just a very cheap metal. The diff cups are metal. The drive shafts are the same on the rear as they are the front. They're articulated units, so you could swap them over if needs be. So what we'll do now is start pulling the transmission apart. We've got a great big dog bone that is basically our central drive shaft that transmits the power from the reduction gear to the front diff. I'm presuming there'll be like a short shaft in there that will do the same for the rear. But anyway, we'll pull this lot apart and see what's involved. Right, transmission wise, we've got a great big plastic reduction gear with a metal bevel gear on one end that drives the rear diff, and a cup on the other, obviously, that drives this dog bone, which then drives the front differential. Now the diffs on this have a metal ring gear on the outside, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be metal gears inside the differential as well, because these units are exactly the same as on the X03, X04, and they're fully metal diffs. And of course that just leaves us with the electronics. We've got our 3-wire micro steering servo here. We've got our little 40 amp combined brushless ESC and receiver, and of course our brushless motor. Now, I think the thing that surprised me most about this Flyhal is how close the design is to the WL Toys 44001. Yet none of the parts I think would be interchangeable. I think the only things you'd be able to swap over would possibly be a pair of shocks and the battery. I think everything else is completely different. Oh, I did forget to mention that this has got a wheelie bar on the back as well. But yes, I think I don't think I've ever seen a design of two RCs that are so similar, yet all of the parts are completely different. So that pretty much concludes our unboxing and teardown for the Flyhal FC650. So what did I like about it? Well, you certainly do get a lot of trick bits for your money. All the suspension is metal. I mean, how long it would last in the real world I don't actually know, but you certainly do get a lot of metal for your money. All the transmission is metal apart from the reduction gear. It seems to be reasonable quality. The price, 80 quid, it's not a lot really for this. It's brushless as well. You do get 2 sets of wheels, 2 batteries with it. I'm going to say it's a bit of a bargain really. Like I say, it used to be 60 odd quid, 60 plus quid, and that was just unbelievable price. But even at 80 quid, that's still not bad at all. And if you wish to purchase this RC, there will be an affiliate link in the description. I will try and get a promo code off Banggood, so if you did, you get a bit of brass off. As ever on the channel, if you found this video of some use and interest, please give it a big thumbs up, and if you're feeling that way inclined, hit that subscribe button for more similar future content. Once again, thanks for watching guys, and I will catch you again soon.